In this video, I will be explaining the types of interval questions you will be asked in grades 1 and 2 of the Associated Board Theory exams. Even if you're not planning to sit a theory exam and you want to know more about intervals, then this is a really good video to start with, as it will introduce the basics and help you understand the more complex intervals which I'll be looking at in the next of my interval videos. Now, I need to assume that you know how to calculate the key signatures and scales for grades 1 and 2. These keys are, in grade 1, C major, which has no sharps or flats, G major, which has 1 sharp, D major, which has 2 sharps, and F major, which has 1 flat. For grade 2, you need to look at B flat, E flat, and A major, as well as 3 minor keys, A, E, and D. Now, if you don't know how to calculate these keys, then have a look at my other videos describing the circle of fifths. The circle of fifths, if you don't already know it, is a really useful tool to help you work out keys and their related key signatures. Okay, let's have a look at an interval. You'll see that there are 2 notes, a lower and a higher note. All you have to do is state how far apart they are. This is what an interval is, the distance between 2 notes. To work this out, there are just a few simple rules. Number 1, look at the bottom note. At grades 1 and 2, this will always be the tonic. Now, if you don't know it already, the tonic is a sort of fancy name for the first note of the scale. So in this example, as the bottom note is a C, and there are no sharps or flats in the key signature, we need to immediately start thinking in C major. Second thing, to work out the interval, remember that's how far the higher note is from the lower note, we need to look at a C major scale. All we do now is count from C, but always remember to include C in the count. This is really, really important. More of this later. And we keep counting until we get to the higher note in the interval, which in this example is a G. So C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F is 4, and G is 5. We therefore know that G is 5 notes away from C. Now, we don't actually say 5 as the answer, we'd call it a fifth. So what we do now know is that the interval between C and G is a fifth. Now, some of you might be wondering at this stage why I haven't called it a perfect fifth. That's because at grades 1 and 2 you only have to give the number of an interval. The name of the interval is not required until grade 3, but more of that in part 2 in this series of videos about intervals. Okay, let's try another example. This time F is at the bottom and there is 1 flat in the key signature. We therefore need to start thinking in F major. We know that we're in F major, so let's draw a scale of F major. Now, remembering to include the first note in the count, we count up until we get to the higher note of the interval, the E. So here goes. F is 1, G is 2, A is 3, B flat is 4. Remember, it's B flat because we're in F major. C is 5, D is 6, E is 7. Therefore, the distance between F and E is 7, or, as it should be known, a seventh. Before we go any further, let's just make sure that you are very happy with the correct distance names. So if the count is 2, we call it a second. If the count is 3, it's a third. 4 is a fourth. 5, as we already know, is a fifth. 6 is a sixth. 7, as in our last example, is a seventh. But an eighth is an octave, and we write it rather differently. This is what it looks like. You'll be pleased to know that at grades 1 to 4, you won't be asked the name of any interval over an octave. One final interval that you might see, but rarely, is a unison. That is a first. So if you see this interval, it is called a unison. One final example to end with. There is 1 flat in the key signature, but we're not in F major as F is not at the bottom. There's a D. Therefore, we are in D minor, which is a grade 2 key that you need to know. So let's work out that interval. Let's draw a scale of D minor. and I've assumed that this is a D harmonic scale, hence the C sharp. It wouldn't really have mattered if I drew a D melodic minor scale, as the two notes in the interval are in both versions of the minor scale. 2. Remember to count up to the higher note, in this case a D, but remembering to include the first note in the count. So D is a unison, E is a second, F is a third, G is a fourth, A is a fifth, B flat is a sixth, C sharp is a seventh, and D is an octave. But remember, we write this rather differently. Here it is. So to recap how to work out intervals at grades 1 and 2. The first thing, work out what key you are in. Look at the key signature and the bottom note. Remember that bottom note will be the tonic note of the scale. 2. Work out the scale of the key that you're in. 3. Count up to the high note, but remember, please remember to include that first note, the tonic note, in the count. And finally, remember that we call intervals either a unison, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, or an octave, which is written slightly differently. Good luck, and I hope this video has been useful to you.